12 years ago when I first met Ellen, she was a bright-eyed 21-year-old working as a file clerk in my office. I was instantly drawn to her. There was something effortlessly attractive about her. Maybe it was the way her skinny jeans skimmed her slim figure, or how she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her features were delicate yet striking, her body petite but well-proportioned. She wasn't overly curvy, but there was a natural allure to her. At the time, I was 30, divorced for 4 years, and ready for a new chapter. More than anything, I wanted a family. Ellen and I grew close over lunch breaks, our casual conversations soon turning into something more. A few weeks after we started seeing each other outside of work, I asked her to spend the weekend with me. It was a weekend filled with laughter, deep conversations, and an undeniable connection. Physically and emotionally, we became inseparable. What started as an easy companionship quickly turned into something serious. A few months into our relationship, Ellen sat me down and told me she was pregnant. I remember looking into her eyes, trying to gauge her emotions. Was she scared? Excited? I asked her what she wanted, to terminate the pregnancy or to get married. Without hesitation, she told me she wanted to keep the baby. That was all I needed to hear. I was more than ready to step into the role of a husband and father. We had a small, private wedding the following weekend, and just like that, I was on my way to building the family I had always dreamed of. During her pregnancy, Ellen became quiet, almost withdrawn. At the time, I assumed it was just the emotional and physical toll of carrying a child. What I didn't know was that she hadn't married me out of love or shared dreams of a family, but rather to escape an unhappy home. I later learned that she had already been pregnant twice before, choosing abortion both times. But she never told me that, not then. Motherhood was not something Ellen embraced with enthusiasm. Our first son was born, followed quickly by our second and third, and within just a few years, we had a house full of boys. Ellen, now a full-time homemaker, poured herself into the role, though I could see how much it drained her. By the time I got home from work each day, she was exhausted. I tried to appreciate her efforts, but as the years passed, I couldn't ignore how much our relationship had changed. The intimacy we once shared slowly faded. I missed the warmth of her touch, the spark in her eyes when she looked at me. When Ellen turned 30, I thought things would shift. The kids were in school, and I assumed she would have more time for herself and for us. But instead of rekindling our connection, she seemed restless, lost. One evening after dinner, she came to me with a request. She wanted to get a part-time job. She told me she was tired of being home alone all day and craved adult interaction. At first I hesitated. I worried about how she would juggle work with the demands of the house and our boys. But Ellen had thought it through. She found a job as a bookkeeper at a small local gym, just 4 hours a day. It seemed perfect. She'd still have time to take care of the house, pick up the kids, and handle any emergencies. I agreed, hoping this would be good for her. Something shifted after she started working. Her mood improved, and she seemed happier, lighter. Then a few months later, she brought up something unexpected. She wanted to use her free gym membership and start working out in the mornings. She planned to go from 4:30 to 6 a.m., come home, get the kids ready, and then head to work. It didn't interfere with my schedule, so I had no reason to object. The changes in her were subtle at first. A few pounds lost here, a bit more energy there. But after a few months, it became undeniable. Ellen was transforming. She had lost 20 pounds, her body returning to the toned, lean figure she had when we first met. One night, as I complimented her on how great she looked, she surprised me with another request: breast implants. She said pregnancy had taken its toll on her body, and she wanted to feel confident again. I understood. After carrying and nursing 3 children, she deserved to feel good about herself. I hoped that maybe, just maybe, this change would reignite the passion that had faded between us. The surgery was done through an incision in her underarms, leaving no visible scars. The results were impressive, natural looking, just as she had wanted. She was thrilled. Life returned to routine. The kids, my job, her part-time work, and early morning workouts. But then everything changed. One Saturday morning, I was cleaning out Ellen's car when something caught my eye. a small, crumpled plastic bag tucked under the driver's seat. I picked it up, and my stomach tightened. Inside was a fine white powder. My mind raced. Was this what I thought it was? Drugs? How did it get here? Was it Ellen's? A friend's? A sinking feeling settled in my chest. I didn't confront her right away. I needed time to think, to figure out my next move. There was only one person I trusted to help me make sense of this. Tommy, an old friend who had spent his life straddling the line between right and wrong. If anyone could tell me what I had found, it was him. That afternoon, I told Ellen I needed to change the oil in my car, and would be out for a few hours. In reality, I was heading across town to Tommy's apartment, the bag of powder burning a hole in my pocket. As I raised my hand to knock, the door swung open, and there was Tommy, reaching down for his morning newspaper. It had been years since I had last seen him, and for a moment, he just stared at me surprised. I gave him a grin and shrugged. Life happened, I said. Kids, family, work. Chasing skirts with my single buddies wasn't exactly practical anymore. Tommy let out a laugh, shaking his head. Never thought I'd see the day. I got serious then. I need a favor. Tommy's expression shifted, his street-smart instincts kicking in. That's what friends are for, he said, stepping aside to let me in. Inside, I wasted no time. I pulled out the small bag I had found under Ellen's car seat and handed it to him. Tommy, always cool under pressure, opened the bag, rubbed a bit of the white powder between his fingers, then touched a small amount to his tongue. He didn't even hesitate before giving me his verdict. Meth, he said casually. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt the blood drain from my face. Methamphetamine? In Ellen's car? My mind raced. How had she gotten her hands on it? Who gave it to her? Was she using it? Selling it? None of it made sense. Tommy watched me carefully. Sit down, he said. I lowered myself into the chair, still processing. Tommy leaned back, studying me. Tell me about Ellen, he said. I told him about her job, the gym, the early morning workouts. That's when he laughed. Gyms are a haven for drugs, man, he said. Steroids, meth, coke, you name it. And the trainers? Half of them are sleeping with their female clients. He paused, letting that sink in. Look, this could be the tip of the iceberg. If you really want answers, you need a professional. Hire a private investigator. I looked at him, still too dazed to respond. Tommy leaned forward, his voice low and serious. You follow her yourself and catch her with some guy. What are you gonna do? Hit him? Get arrested for assault? Or worse, get your ass handed to you. And now the guy has a free pass to claim self-defense? Hit her. Now you're looking at spousal abuse charges. You'll be the one in jail. And she'll be free to keep doing whatever she wants. Hell, she might even move the guy into your house while you're locked up. I swallowed hard. This is California, Tommy continued. A no-fault divorce state. Her cheating? Legally irrelevant. But you? If you screw up, if you react emotionally, you lose everything. Your house, your 401k, your retirement. The court doesn't care about your feelings, Bill. They care about financial stability. You end up in jail. And they'll make sure your assets go straight to her and the kids. And nothing stops her from using your money to support the guy she cheated on you with. I sat in stunned silence. Listen to me, Tommy said. If she's on drugs, you need to get her into rehab, for the sake of your kids. But if she's cheating, that's different. That means she has no respect for you. And if she's lost that, you're never getting it back. He exhaled, shaking his head. Cheaters don't regret cheating, Bill. They regret getting caught. They know exactly what they're doing. It's selfish. And if she's done it once, it only gets easier the next time. I sat there for a long time, absorbing everything he had said. Finally, Tommy reached into a drawer and pulled out a business card. Call him on Monday, he said. Get the proof before you do anything else. I took the card, my fingers tightening around it. I wasn't about to be blindsided. 2 weeks later, I sat alone in my office, staring at the private investigator's report. My hands clenched into fists as I read the words over and over. But the truth didn't change. Ellen had been seeing a personal trainer from the gym. Their routine was methodical. Every morning at 4:30 a.m., they would meet in the back seat of her car, where they had sex for over an hour before heading into the gym when it opened at 5 o'clock. It never even occurred to me to check what time the gym opened. I had trusted her, and she had betrayed me. The trainer, as it turned out, was also a small-time drug dealer. Meth, steroids, the whole package. And now my wife, the mother of my children, was tangled up with him. I picked up the phone and called Tommy. "I'm coming over," I said. The freeway was a mess, but I barely noticed the traffic. 45 minutes later, I rang Tommy's doorbell. He opened it without a word and stepped aside, letting me in. I handed him the report, my jaw tight with rage. Tommy took his time reading it, flipping through the pages carefully, before placing it on the table in front of him. Then he looked up at me. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice measured. "First of all, you do nothing to make her suspicious. The plan had to be executed flawlessly. Ellen couldn't suspect a thing. That Monday morning, I stirred slightly as I heard the shower running upstairs. I glanced at the clock, 4:15 a.m. She was right on schedule. I lay in bed, feigning sleep, listening as she moved through her routine. When she stepped out of the bathroom, I could hear the faint rustle of fabric as she slipped into gym shorts and a tank top. I wondered if she had even bothered to put on underwear. Probably not. She padded softly down the stairs, and as soon as I heard the front door click shut and the garage door begin to rise, I moved with purpose. Silently, I slid out of bed and pulled on my clothes. From the nightstand, I grabbed a pair of gloves and my camera with the telephoto lens. Down in the garage, I opened the trunk of my car and retrieved Ellen's original plastic bag, the one I had found under her seat. I then pulled out 2 additional bags of meth, courtesy of Tommy from our last meeting. Taking a deep breath, I stowed the bags and my camera in the passenger seat, started the car, and backed out of the driveway. The drive to the gym was dark and uneventful. I killed my headlights about 50 yards from the parking lot, pulling off the road just out of sight. From my vantage point, I could see her car parked beside an old Ford Bronco. The lot was mostly deserted at this hour, save for the dim glow of a few streetlights. I crept forward, using the cover of bushes, and peered toward Ellen's car. Movement in the back seat confirmed my worst suspicions. My jaw tightened. The Bronco was empty, its windows dark. I moved quickly, staying low. Reaching the vehicle, I carefully opened the driver's side door and tossed 2 of the plastic bags onto the passenger seat. Without hesitating, I skirted around the front, reached Ellen's car, and discreetly dropped the 3rd bag onto the ground near the back door. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Ellen's face was pressed against the far window, her eyes shut in what I assumed was pleasure. And beside her, a man I didn't recognize, though I had a strong suspicion who he was. The trainer. Suppressing the surge of anger threatening to boil over, I retreated as quickly and silently as I had arrived. Once out of sight, I pulled out a prepaid phone, purchased less than an hour earlier, and dialed 911. I altered my voice slightly, keeping it urgent but steady. "I'm reporting a rape and a possible child abduction. The suspect is a male, potentially armed. They're in the parking lot of gym name, near a Ford Bronco. Send officers immediately." Hanging up, I tucked myself into a concealed position across the street, my camera at the ready. The waiting was brief. Less than 3 minutes later, 2 police cruisers arrived without sirens, their lights off. As they pulled into the lot, their headlights suddenly blazed to life, illuminating the vehicles. I watched, heart pounding, as the officers stepped out, weapons drawn, using their car doors for cover. A voice rang through a loudspeaker, authoritative and commanding. "Exit the vehicle with your hands above your head." A long pause. Then the driver's side door creaked open. The first to emerge was the trainer, wearing nothing but a pair of boxer shorts. Ellen followed moments later, her gym shorts still on, but her top missing. The officers ordered them to turn and place their hands on the car. 2 policemen approached cautiously, keeping their guns trained on the suspects while the others moved in. I watched one of them bend down and pick up the plastic bag I had planted by Ellen's car. He examined it briefly, then held it up for his partner to see. With a nod, another officer moved toward the Bronco, opening both front doors. Seconds later, he returned, holding the other 2 plastic bags. The cops exchanged words, their voices low but firm. Then came the radio chatter, the checks on the license plates and identification. From my hidden vantage point, I snapped photos rapidly. The moment the cuffs were brought out, I caught it all. The officer gripping Ellen's wrists, securing them behind her back. The way she barely resisted, her head bowed in shame. The trainer receiving the same treatment, looking more irritated than alarmed. Then, just as efficiently as they had arrived, the officers loaded them into separate patrol cars and drove away. I exhaled, my breath visible in the cool morning air. Back in my car, I took a moment to steady myself before heading home. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was still quiet. I glanced at the clock. 6 a.m. perfect timing. Upstairs, I gently roused the kids, helping them get ready for school as if it were any other day. By 7:30 a.m., I was driving them to class, playing the role of the devoted father without a hitch. Back home, I picked up my phone and called my boss, informing him I wouldn't be coming in. Then I waited. It didn't take long. Around 11 a.m., my phone rang. Ellen. I answered, though I already knew. She was sobbing. Bill, please, I need you to bail me out. It was a mistake. We got arrested at the gym for possession. But it wasn't mine, I swear. I don't even know how it got there. I let her words hang in the air, savoring the raw panic in her voice. I'll find out what the bail amount is, I said evenly. I'll see what I can do. I ended the call before she could respond. Setting the phone down, I allowed myself a small, satisfied breath. The next call was to my attorney. I want to file for divorce immediately, I said. This week. I also want supervised visitation for Ellen. She's not coming near the kids unsupervised. And while you're at it, get a restraining order. She's to stay at least 100 yards away from my house. No exceptions. The legal wheels were now in motion. For the first time in weeks, a sense of calm washed over me. Standing, I walked over to my liquor cabinet, reaching for a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue Label. I poured myself half a glass, the amber liquid catching the light as I swirled it slowly. I strolled into the living room, stopping before a framed photo of Ellen, smiling, perfect, deceitful. Raising my glass, I let the words spill from my lips, quiet and final. You filthy lying whore.